Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 10th, 2022 regular meeting of the Timberlane Budget Committee. Welcome, everybody. Carrie, you want to call the roll, please?
Yes. Christia Clare, Catherine Consalvo,
Here.
Sierra Dulce, here. Julie Hammond, Liz Costa,
Here.
Michael Mascola,
Here.
Todd McCormick,
He's been excused.
Sue Sherman,
Here.
Karen White,
She's been excused.
Mark Sherwood.
He's excused. Okay, look, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Carl, would you like to lead us in the pledge this evening? And I'd like us to stay standing after the pledge, if we could.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like us, if we could take a moment of remembrance this evening. This is the evening before November 11th, when we honor our service members present and those who served. So if we could take a moment of remembrance. Thanks, everybody.
We do have a very man in the room that I know. Anybody else? Isabella? Probably Isabella. Thank you for your stuff.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Carl.
I was thinking this afternoon about my dad. Was a World War I vet. Yes, I was a mistake baby in their lives. He proudly, as an 18-year-old, fought in World War I, rode the caissons, taught me the song. It was one of the first songs I learned as a little girl. Came home after the war, World War I, of course, married my mother, had a family, built a business, helped other servicemen, very, very patriotic gentleman. He'd be very proud of his great-grandson, who's in the marching band at Timberlane and is playing taps tomorrow at the Plasto service. I probably wasn't supposed to tell anybody that, but very proud of him. So thank you all for your service, everyone. Okay, we've got some minutes here and a pretty long agenda, so I will start with my quote, if I can find it. Maybe I won't have a quote. Maybe we won't have a quote. We won't have a quote this evening, Carrie. Sorry. Approval of minutes from October 27th. Thanks, Carrie, for getting these out to us early, so we had a chance to peruse these. I know you made a couple of corrections. I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Michael makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Sierra makes a second. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? 3. Opposed? 0. Abstaining? 2. Thank you for that. I found my quote. This is from Winston Churchill. So tonight is, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that really counts. So let us continue. Okay, this evening, any correspondence? Nope. Nope. We're clear?
Here.
Do we have any delegation? I have to put my glasses on to see you and take them off to read. It's my thing. Any delegations here this evening? Okay. If not, administrators report. Hello, Superintendent.
Hello, happy to be here. And I
Nice to see you.
apologize for missing the meetings that I have missed. I've had conflicts, so. I just want to bring everyone up to speed with regard to the safety training that we've been doing in the district. Yes, it's ALICE training, and now all of our schools have been trained. We still have this building left to do. We'll be doing that soon. And that's it's really our second phase of the training, and we'll be moving forward. We'll continue to collaborate with area police and fire departments who have been wonderful, along with our in-district trainers that include Carl and Kelly, who are two of our Alice trainers, district staff, so we're grateful for them for all of their work. It's really quite a bit of work that goes into it. But great feedback so far from our staff. They're very appreciative of the training that we've participated in, and looking forward to more to come. And the next phases will include student and family education before we move forward to the additional phases of training that will include drills and things like that. Another thing that we are moving forward with, and we should be reporting out soon, is our special education audit. But prior to being able to report out and finalize our report, we are conducting a survey that will be coming out very soon. We've partnered with UNH Survey Center to conduct that survey for us. So we'll have a copy of that survey to the school board this coming Thursday, a week from tonight, and then that will be going out soon thereafter. We continue to work with local agencies to increase our partnerships to benefit students. And today, thanks to Ginger Drexel, our Director of Student Services, she had coordinated with CLM, Behavioral Health Systems, or Center for Life Management, as many people know it, Kerry Ali, the Director of Acute Care and Regional Rapid Response for CLM, joined all of the principals and directors and provided us additional information about the emergency services that CLM provides. So those are emergency services that any time that, whether it's a child or an adult, it makes any comments that could be construed as suicidal ideation or suicidal threats or homicidal threats. So we're working collaboratively with CLM. I also, Ginger and I have a meeting scheduled coming up pretty soon with the Director of Children's Services as well, to look at how we can further our partnership to better support our community with regard to mental health needs. Some of the lighter news, check the PAC calendar. The next month or so, it's just full of events, whether they're holiday concerts and activities performed by students, but also by other performance groups that come and utilize that great center. There's the Merrimack Valley Philharmonic. There are all kinds of events and activities. Actually, the Milkmen are performing tonight. So please check out that PAC webpage and try and get to an event. It's never to disappoint, that's for sure. Also, check out the athletic page. There are still events happening. I'll highlight one in just a moment, but also the winter tryouts. So the schedule for winter tryouts are on that athletic page, so please check that out, and you can click and find any other things that you need to do to prepare your child for winter tryouts. As most people do know, and if you don't, here we go. We are in the playoffs with the varsity football team. We're very excited. We'll be playing Exeter, in Exeter, 1 o'clock on Saturday. And I believe it's going to be rain or shine, because they do have a turf field and it drains well. So as of right now, and Mr. Vaccarez is nodding, and Mr. Fantasia said to me, we're playing. So 1 o'clock Saturday in Exeter. Get yourself a poncho and come on out and root on our Owls. This past week, let's see, today is Thursday, I believe it was Tuesday. There was an incredibly moving ceremony at the Timberlane Heroes Wall. Captain Alexander O'Neill Smith of the graduating class of 2010 was conducted into that Wall of Honor, and we were joined by his family as well as many of his past teachers and extended family, friends of his family. Again, very moving. For those that don't know, the Timberlane Heroes Wall is a place in the high school. It's just outside of the cafeteria. There's a beautiful fountain and sculpture there, and pictures of Timberlane graduates who have served in the armed forces and have passed away. So it's a place of honor that I know is held very dear for all of our Timberlane heroes. So anytime you're in that high school and nearby, please check it out. And continuing on with your wishes regarding Veterans Day, I know I speak for the entire Timberlane community with a heartfelt thank you to all of our people who have served in the military, currently serving, as well as their families and the families of those that have served. We're very fortunate to have the level of service in this country that we do, and that is how we're able to enjoy the freedoms that we have. And so, especially for our students out there, as I shared at the football game, it's not just a long weekend. You know, a lot of people have made a whole lot of sacrifices for us to not just have a long weekend, but for all of the freedoms that we have, including the education that we're able to provide to our kids. So thank you to all of our veterans. And lastly, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, especially our staff, our very dedicated staff, our students, and the families in our community. I'm just hopeful that you have time to share some wonderful time with friends and family, and for those, you know, to spend time with those with whom you're very grateful to be connected. So thank you for that, and wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And that's it.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Chris. Moving on to reports. I did give you all, I had Kerry print out, and it should be there, an updated chart, a schedule, so you can see the changes that have been made and moved around to accommodate all the budgets. You can see where we are tonight on the 10th, who we're hearing tonight, and where we've moved some things. So also highlighted there is the school board meeting of the 15th of December, when the commissioner has been invited to present. Carrie, you said the school board's working on having it at the library at the high school. Not sure about that yet, but we're working on a larger venue. This room is a little too small, I think, for it, and I think the PAC's a little too big, so we're looking for a medium-sized space that would be welcoming to the commissioner. So just to keep those dates in mind, if you're interested in any of that, and you can see where we are with our schedule. I also welcome Liz. Thank you for joining us from Plastow. Michael and I are happy to have a full contingent from Plastow. This
It's an
budget's
honor to be here.
important. Yeah, great, I'm glad. Anything from the rest of the budget committee members? Have we had CIP's done? Christie's not here to report on that, and strategic plan meeting isn't happening until next week or the following week. We're a little bit behind, the meetings don't always tap in the right order, so we'll keep you updated where we are. That strategic plan is not a one and done, it's months of work, and we've just barely scratched the surface on that, so we'll keep you updated as we go on
Monday the
that.
14th.
14th, so it's this week, yep. I'm always a couple of weeks behind myself, I don't know. But I'm here, so unless any members have anything they need to report or want to say, jump in. If not, we'll go to our new business. You can see we've got some budgets to see tonight, so we will welcome first Timberlane Regional High School Principal. John, come on down. John, you are welcome to present this budget any way that feels comfortable to you. We have the printouts, we have it in numbers of formats, so whatever way you want to talk to us, we are willing to listen.
Thank you. And thank you very much for having me present the budget today. I appreciate your guys' support. I've seen you guys in a number of, on committees. I've seen you guys come to the school and visit and check things out. I've seen you guys at events, so I just want to thank you guys all for this, and I'd like to thank members of the community for the support as well. I think probably the easiest way to do it is, if we can, we'll go with the summary of the proposed budget. I believe you guys have those sheets, and I can kind of run down, give any extra information as far as would be required. And you can see the proposed budget is a little over $709,000. The current one is $704,700, which the increase overall will be about $4,500 for the year. Okay. I'll go through the larger items of whether they are increases or decreases, and if there's any other questions, obviously I'll entertain those as well. The first one deals with repairs to art equipment. There's a decrease of $2,000. The reason being is we're not going to need to utilize as much money for repairs for the equipment because we are purchasing a new kiln. So if we don't have to repair it, we're not going to have to budget it as much. So that's what goes on there. The next one is a reduction of $2,850. Repair and maintenance. This is less spending being done on certain areas by the high school because it's being budgeted more by the facilities department. So that's why that's taking place right there. Okay. The next is an increase to industrial tech. This is dealing with $2,600. It's repairs to the 3D printer, which is no longer under warranty. Now, a 3D printer on a quality 3D printer that you would need for a high school programs is going to start around, $25,000. Okay, we've had ours under warranty, but now, because of the warranty lapse, we're going to have to put money in to keep it, to do the upkeep, and it's a much less cost than buying a whole brand new one. We have a quality one, but we have to also plan just in case for repairs as far as that goes. So that's why that's in there. Okay. There's a $20,000 increase. This is linked with superintendents have agreements with other schools that's dealing with tuitions that take place along those lines. So what happens is in the past, this might not have been in my budget. This year it is in my budget, so that's why this increase shows there. Okay. The next one, you'll see a rather large decrease of $36,931. This decrease is coming about because of two major things. One, we shifted where the testing is being done as far as where it is in the budget. It is now, you'll see later on, we're going to put it into another section of the budget, and that was $25,000. That's for testing such as AP testing and fees and things along those lines. The other, around $11,000 to almost $12,000, is a reduction in the cost of toner for copiers. We had been budgeting over a certain amount for a number of years with the embracement of different technologies, with more into the Google Classroom, more online. We don't need to have the same amount that we've always had budgeted for copiers and those type of things. Okay? All right. Well, the next is an increase of $59.77, industrial tech. For a number of years, for the past 2 years prior, with COVID, we weren't going through supplies at the same level. We didn't use as many, so we didn't have to budget as much for a number of years. Now that we have come to a point that we're back to budgeting and needing to purchase more items than we had previously for a couple of years. So that's why in the past you would see the decrease. Now we're going up a little more. Okay. All right. This is the PE department, and I believe the PE athletic director presented much of the PE, so I don't need to go too much into this, but in short, this $2,000 decrease is because less funds are needed for the PE equipment next year compared to the previous ones. Okay. Social studies for a number of years did not have a lot of purchased items. And so, what this increase of $1,558 really is they had worked off of supplies that were used previous years. Now we're starting to see a little uptick in the amount of supplies that are needed in different areas. And so this is, in social studies, they went up this amount. I think for a couple of years they were budgeting around $2,000, and now we're talking around $3,500. Okay. World language. They had done a number of grammar booklets that were purchased. That has been completed, and therefore their total book purchases are going down, so that's a $2,000 decrease for the up-and-coming budget. Math books, similar type situation. They did the purchase of My Math Lab books, and they're less costly than the ones from the previous year. So those are causing a decrease of $1,000 coming forward for the math books. Again, a lot more being done with on the tech side with these things, so there's less of the cost coming forward. Science also is seeing a decrease in the number of books, and it's about 5,500 as well, and that's going to be a decrease that's showing there. Okay. This next one is a fee, it's called an information access fee for the high school. It's a decrease of $2,530. What happened is this particular budget item has been now done by the SAU, and it's gone to the tech department, so it was discussed about previously. So that's why this decrease took place. Okay. There's an increase of $7,240, and what happened is, in the past, things were budgeted under different titles and different areas. This one was budgeted in the STEM account, okay, which was, basically an account last year, which was probably, I think the budget was around $15,000. This year, you'll see the decrease in that, and you'll see this $7,200 increase is going into a different one. So it's a shifting under a more appropriate area within the budget, okay? And this is, we're using the software line with this. The next one is an increase of $2,902. The business department, they're doing this because of coding class. We have a coding class that they're coming in, and they're going to need particular software in order to do that properly. Okay. All right, you're going to see a decrease of $3,785. What has happened is, in previous years, and this has been going down, so there was a large amount of software in the English department, but that would cover maybe the world language department. It would cover different departments. Now each one has their own area, so instead of the English department having this amount in there, this amount really should be going to the world language department, so that's why this is coming out. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right. If I'm going too slow or too fast, just tell me what you need me to do. All righty. What I just explained, here's the flip side, and this is the increase, and that's in the world language software line. So if you were to really look at it as far as what the English went down and the world language went up, it's really an increase of $1,279. Okay. This decrease that's coming out, that was what I mentioned previously on the prior page about the shift with the STEM line. So what's happening is the engineering software is moved to the ICT department, so that's why this is coming out at this point in time. All right. There's an increase of $1,275 in the software for math. I kind of mentioned we had $1,000 taken out with books with math, more into the software. So it kind of balances out. Okay. This next increase is dealing with art equipment. It's a 5-drawer steel cabinet. It's $1,922. What happens is with the number, when you have the drawings and different things, and if you ever come to the school, you'll see the drawings are on large papers and the paintings are on large papers. You need a proper area to store them so that, first of all, they don't get destroyed, that they maintain their integrity, and that they maintain the quality work of what the students are demonstrating. This is one of those where we'll be able to holster the students' work in those. So that's why this has been asked for. Okay. It's been a decrease of $1,463 in new equipment for the English department, and really this is just because they requested fewer items this year. So, okay. There's an increase of $15,050. You're dealing with tables and chairs for students. These were budgeted in supplies, and we're also moving a lot more. The traditional school of you have the desk connected to the chair that I think many of us used to experience. We've moved more to tables. It allows for more cooperative working, allows for a different classroom structure. Our classrooms have been going to this for a number of years, and that's why this now has been moved from other budget area into this as well. Okay. There's a decrease of $2,693 And this is really just because less equipment has been asked for in this particular area. Okay. So we talked, the very, very first page, the first thing I talked about was the kiln, and that we weren't gonna need as much repairs of the art equipment. Well, this is the one, the kiln needs to be replaced, so we're replacement equipment in the art, so that's why this is coming about there. Okay. We see a decrease of $17,142. We've been doing a program of updating the cafeteria. A number of you came on tours, and they saw some of the updates. Next year, we're going to do a fewer updates of the cafeteria, but we are still trying to eye as updating it so that it's a cafeteria kids enjoy being in, that becomes a cafeteria that's a learning station as much as an area just to eat. But we are decreasing the amount that we are looking to do for the next year. But this is a program that we've been kind of working on for a number of years. This isn't a one type and done situation. There's a decrease of $1,500. Really, we're going to be replacing a wall oven for our family and consumer science class. So we know that we know that's the item that we need to. There's not going to necessarily have to budget for a whole bunch more over a period of time. We kind of scheduled out as best we can. Increase in replacement equipment. These are sensor replacements. So what it is these sensors are kind of, they're like erector sets, okay? And you're trying to, when we were younger, you had those. These sensors are key to the woodworking programs so that they are able to kind of put them together. So it's one of those types of situations. I had to do a lot of research on that one, trying to figure out even now as of today, because of the nature of the programs. Is it going to be in the VEX program? Is it in this program? So, okay. There's an increase of $2,379. This has been a program we've been doing for a couple of years within science. It's your digital scales replacements, okay? They are costly. You do them over a period of time, and this way you're not getting a sticker shock of a large number of items. You do it over a period of time. So this is year 2 of that type of replacement program, okay? You spoke earlier about a decrease of $36,000, and I said about the AP testing and the shifting to a different line. Here is that shifting of the different lines, so you'll see the $25,000, and this is for the AP testing, and it's so that now it's been moved to a different line item. That's what's going on there. All right. A $7,000 increase into vocational education. Last year when we talked about this, we talked about it at length. It was about the CTE programs, and we had budgeted a certain amount higher. This $7,000 is the amount higher we believe we will be paying next year over the current cost for students for our CTE programs that go to both Salem and to Pinkerton. Okay. There's a $1,000 increase. This is about access to the adult education program. We have software such as Edgenuity and certain licenses that are involved with this, so that's what we are looking at there. Okay. There's a decrease in the library. They are not requesting equipment be replaced next year, so that's why this $1,550 is coming out. And likewise, they're not getting new equipment. They're also not replacing the certain equipment that they don't need anymore, so that's why the next $4,000 line is coming out. And then the principal's new office equipment at the high school. We're satisfied with the equipment we currently have in our offices, so we're budgeting out the $2,773 for next year. So, all total, it's an increase of $45.41 overall.
Thank you, John. Questions from the committee? How many digital balances have you been replacing each year?
Let me,
You tell me, is it, I know they're pretty expensive, but couple, 4, 6?
right off the top of my head, I don't know on the specifics, but let me see if I have them in another form. Okay.
So I was looking at the same thing. Is the balancer that expensive?
These
Yes.
they're electronic, digital balances, and they're very accurate and expensive. And hard use or well used by chemistry and biology students, and they get goofy.
So
You
that
spill
was for-
something on it and you,
I'm checking, give me one moment, okay?
yeah, it was more my curiosity as being the science
Sure.
nut that I am.
What do we got here?
That's a good idea. I know that we had, middle school had a microscope replacement, and you gotta do a program like that. You can't replace those big pieces of equipment, although I like them all at once. That sticker shock is, I'm thinking 4. I bet you they're close to $400 a
Make
piece
sure.
now.
I'm not gonna give you a number,
Yeah,
I
that's okay.
don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's
So-
fine.
So when we generally replace equipment like this, what do we do with the old stuff?
You can't use it anymore, you
End of
try,
life?
you try to recycle whatever you can and see if someone can take it, but the reality is, there is no value, once these are off, the value of them is nil. Because they are such, when you're talking about the digital, it's such a precise thing, you can't be off, you know? You use the example of the microscopes, and you could be, the repairs on microscopes can be astronomical, $20,000. And if one's off just a little bit, there's, you're replacing that particular part, it has to be perfect. Digital scale's not necessarily the same way. And you do have to be very, very careful, you'll hear the teachers, be very careful with
Carry it
this,
with
take
2
this.
hands,
Yeah.
don't bump it, don't spill anything on it.
Yeah.
But,
Don't let, if you're melting and trying to do keep that away, because it sets it up because for being a malfunction.
Sometimes you can recycle a few of the parts, but there are some tinkerers around that like to, let's see if we can take it all apart.
Yeah,
and put it
I'm
back
sure
together.
Mr. Rugaletti
Oh, I'm
has
sure he
probably a
does.
number of them that he would play with.
I have a question. How many students utilize the CTE at Salem?
So with the numbers specifically, last year, I believe we were around, is it 76 or to 94, I think was this year was what they were trying to do total though.
I thought it was around 80. I thought
Okay.
it's an average of 80
All right.
students. It
I just
depends on
wanna
the
make
seats
sure-
that
It's,
they
it's,
give
it
us,
depends,
too.
right, it's on seats and you have some at Pinkerton, you have
Yeah, some at
a small
Pinkerton and-
number of seats at
Yep.
Pinkerton and a number of seats, a larger number of seats at Salem. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And do we transport them, or do they get their own transportation?
So the students to Salem, we transport them.
And then the Pinkerton
And the
kids-
Pinkerton ones, there's no transportation, they have to transport themselves.
All right,
We reimburse them though. The students that transport themselves, we
Oh.
reimburse them.
it's coming back now. from school
Remember now,
days.
Liz? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
coming
get-
back.
Yeah.
12
Scales.
12 scales, there you go. 12 scales.
Who got that information?
Reward.
Patty texted me.
There we go, Patty.
Thank you, Patty.
She's on it.
Yes, she's watching right now. Hi,
So
Patty.
that's a classroom, an average science classroom you're replacing.
Partner sharing a scale.
Yeah, 24 kids in a class, partnerships a couple, maybe 3 in a group. So that might be 1 classroom, maybe 1.5 classrooms. Well, that's not too bad. Anything else? This is kind of when you look at these budgets, because you've done some realigning of, and you're not the only one that's done this, John, but because you were the last school we're hearing, you're the last hurrah. you know, we've seen a lot of that. I know you've been working with Maria and Lisa to get things a little bit more so that we're all on the same track here about where things should be and where Maria wants things in the financial documents. So you're seeing a lot, it comes over here and now it's over here, but it's really the same $1,000 that we're chasing around. So sometimes when our public sees this, they think, wow, well, you know, this is a lot of increase. No, it isn't really. It's really kind of small money. It's just sliding it over into categories that work better, so. I appreciate the work you've done here to talk about others' $1,000 bills.
I do want to say that I absolutely give a shout out to John and his team at the high school. They are amazingly fiscally responsible. I do not have enough words to say my appreciation because you have a wonderful team there and you guys are always on top of things. Also, the effort that you have done with us, working with us for the last 2 years to reallocate these budgets and spend things out of the lines that they belong to and not where we have the money. I do appreciate that personally, and I speak, I think, for both of us. Lisa and I are kind of Nazis with that, and it's very important to us to have accurate accounting, so thank you, John.
It's
Thank
not,
you
how's
for-
this, my team is very good, and, you know,
Yes.
Patty and Dee and the CIAs that are doing their work there. The admin team, those guys are the ones doing it. I just get to present it. So, and I will say, I was gonna have my budget be $688,500 more.
There you go.
So I was going to do that because I had put in,
It was,
You know,
it was in John's initial
but,
proposal.
yes, so it was gonna be that much more because I believe we have to start looking at the program of lunches to kids at school this year. We no longer have free lunch across the state. It's not at the Timberlane thing, but I think at some point we have to look at the kids' well-being as far as it's really difficult to learn when you have the stress of what's gonna happen if you go through the line and the fear of that type of thing. Not that our cafeteria does an incredible job of feeding kids but it's just the stress that some kids have to go through. And so, you know, if any of you got that Powerball ticket, I would certainly say put $688,500 and let's make sure every kid doesn't have to worry about going through that line with lunches. That's what I would say.
And we talked about it and talked about really, you know, if that's something that we want to look at as a district, we should be looking at it for the whole district, not just the high school.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're talking a couple to a few $1 million.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, $3 million.
To kids in the district.
$3 million a year to,
Feed all students without charging
free.
anybody for lunch.
Feed everybody.
Feed everybody, all students,
Pupils.
elementary through high school,
Yeah,
without
kindergarten.
charging anything for lunch.
For the past 2 years, there was the federal program. This year, that federal program stopped. Some areas, some states have passed legislation to keep that going. We have not, but I think it might,
Massachusetts did.
yes. We as a state have not, but it might be something that, if we're gonna really look for our kids' well-being and
Eliminate
help them in the long run, that would be the way to go.
system and just everybody, you would just do what we've been doing since that was instituted federally with the pandemic, which just all students
Got fed.
get lunch for free.
Get a meal for free.
It would cost us $3 million to do that. And we said, you know, maybe that's something that gets entertained at the end of this, you know, budget review. Who knows? That could be something that, as a committee, a recommendation is made to consider something like that.
You would need the information on it to consider it, and I'm not sure we can recommend. It's the school board's decision to spend the money. But that's some things to think about there, John. Thank you for
Yep.
slipping that in.
Well, I didn't see it on my budget, but if you want, I can put it there. Just figure,
It was
point of
on the
information
initial-
might be good.
It was, yeah.
Honestly, I
And
appreciate you saying it because it just shows an example of your character and the compassion you have for your students by even just bringing it up.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions specifically to the budget for the high school? Well done. We thank you, John, for bringing the information to us, and we'll move on.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, John.
Moving on to curriculum and professional learning, professional services. The Director of Curriculum, Sandy, hi.
Hi, good evening. Nice to see you all. So I have two budgets to present.
Yep.
And I don't have the agenda packet in front of me, but I'm happy to start with whichever one is first in front of you all.
Curriculum's on our top.
Curriculum is on top, so we will start with curriculum. So just a high-level overview. This budget, you'll see, is slightly up by just under $18,000, so $17,355 over our current budget this year. The primary drivers for that increase are twofold. One, and I'll talk about them as we get to those lines, but one of them is that we are starting a process to research a K through 8 math resource that we can use and bring in to support our math instruction. It likely will not be a textbook program. Philosophically, in our district, we are not a program-based district where we purchase programs as curriculum, but rather we have a fully articulated K through 12 curriculum that is based on state and national standards. It's developed through the participation and input with our teachers. And so what we strive to do in our district, rather than purchasing pre-canned programs and bringing them in as a turn the page of a textbook and on this day this is what everyone's doing, is to really support our teachers and train them, provide professional development opportunities and resources to help them to best deliver that curriculum to their students, and trust them as the professionals that they are, who have the expertise to design those lessons connected to the curriculum, but also give them the resources that they need. So that will be a process this year. When we budget ahead, as you all know, our timeline, we're not always in the fall in a place where we have a recommendation at this time for cost associated with those resources. So we are in the process of doing that as a leadership team. We will bring that to our curriculum and assessment committee, depending on what we settle on. I did put in there, you'll see, not in the overview pages, but when we get to that budget line, you'll see some different itemized costs associated with those lines. So we do have some that we have settled on, but we're also anticipating a slightly larger cost. So that's one of our primary drivers. Another one is that we are looking to implement the PSAT at the high school. And that will be a multi-year process that we're looking to implement that. And I can talk a little bit more about that when we get to that line. But that is another driver for this increase. So there are some decreases that we'll talk about, but those are our fundamental topics that I want to just give you a high-level overview of. So I am, like Mr. Vacaresa, going to go through the overview sheet where we'll see increases and decreases over or under $1,000, but I'm happy to address any other lines that I don't address. If you have any questions, please just stop me, and I'm happy to answer any questions as they come up. So the first item that you'll see is a decrease in our elementary instructional supplies. It looks like the title of that line got cut off. But that first one is a decrease of $4,000. It was at $5,000 through a spending trend analysis. We have not been spending in that line. We've moved over the past several years to digital platforms. With a lot of our resources, we are no longer purchasing binders, printing, even pens and things like that when we have PD days. Virtually most of our resources for our teachers and for ourselves, really, as a leadership team, are living in the virtual platform, and so we just have not been spending that. So we are dropping that, but leaving enough, $1,000, to give us some flexibility should any needs arise. So our second one is elementary books and info resources. Again, this is connected to primarily the math resources that I just spoke to, but there are some other resources that fall in that line as well. And so you will notice we have some summer reading books that are in there. We also are working on providing some social and emotional learning books. We've been looking at those through our curriculum and assessment committee. We're looking to expand on that and provide those resources to our staff. So that is the elementary projected increase for elementary books and info resources. At the secondary level, this is actually a new line in the curriculum budget. So I know Mrs. Sherman spoke a little while ago about that realignment of lines in the curriculum to better reflect and place our costs appropriately in our budget. So in looking at this budget, we worked closely with Maria and Lisa. We discovered some lines that were misplaced or mislabeled and some that were missing. And so we created this new line for the secondary level to mirror what we have or had already for the elementary line for books and info resources, so that, again, we're not budgeting for textbooks. We have textbook lines. We're not looking to purchase a textbook program, but to have the opportunity to purchase books and potentially info resources that connect to our math resources that we're hoping to finalize a decision on this coming year. So that's an increase of $21,800. Moving on, you'll see a couple of info access lines. The first one is the elementary line. It's a decrease of just over $7,500 at the secondary level. And then just below that, that was the elementary level. The secondary line is just below that, and that's a little bit more. It's a decrease of almost $14,000. Primarily, we have been able to reduce at the elementary and secondary level through middle school the number of info resources and programs that we've been using with our students, because we've been able to leverage the iReady program and platform that we implemented last year. That is an assessment platform, but it also has an instructional component for both reading and mathematics. And that was funded through the ESSER grant. And so that grant allowed us to purchase a 3-year license for that platform, which we were able to replace other programs that were similar, not identical, but similar, with iReady. I talked about this last year because that assessment platform and instructional program does come with a pretty hefty cost. So again, we were able to purchase a 3-year license. We are in year 2. Next year will be year 3, so you don't see it in your budget. I'm giving you sort of advance notice that a year from now, unless we can find some additional federal funding, I will be coming likely with the cost of a 1-year license with iReady. That program has been going well for us. I mean, we'll continue to evaluate its value, but you won't see that here, so there is a decrease here. I'm just letting you know that because that grant funding will run out, it will be something that we will likely have to put back into our district budget next year. So decreases in those lines for now, but more to come on that. Info access fees district-wide. We have not changed the number of programs or licenses that we are using. The ones that fall on this line primarily are budgeted and used as library media resources. Our district librarians request these programs. They are available for all students. Some of them are ebooks, others are World Book Online. So a variety of programs fall into that budget line. It is district-wide. We have not increased the programs, but the cost and annual renewal has increased incrementally for each program, and then as we add them up together, it gets us to that increase of just under $3,000. Dues and fees. This is, again, a line that we had not carried a cost in. And this is associated with the PSAT rollout that I mentioned earlier. So essentially, the SAT, as I think many of you know, is our state accountability test for our 11th graders. This is, I think, year 7 or 8 that the state has been using the SAT as our state assessment. And so once the state adopted that, we did see our students, because many of them who are looking to apply to college or university had a greater buy-in, right? Because this is a test that many of them are going to have to take regardless of the state accountability testing. And so along with that, we have all sorts of data that we're able to leverage across grades pre-K 8. At the high school level, iReady that I just mentioned stops at grade 8. We do not have the same types of assessments that are able to give us more reliable norm data on student learning across grades 9 through 12, aside from the SAT, which is 11th grade. So in conversation with Principal Vacaresa, his leadership team, our director of school counseling, we've been exploring the implementation of the PSAT as a way to both provide our 9th and 10th, we're not quite at 9th grade, but our 10th and 11th graders with increased opportunities to prepare for the SAT, to get data that they themselves can use to identify areas that they may need some additional practice ahead of taking the SAT. But also alongside that, it's increased levels of data for our teachers, for parents as well, but for teachers to identify areas, again, of strength and weakness, and hopefully address them earlier than 11th grade, right? So when we get the data in June of 11th grade, at that point, we've missed the boat. So it's a different type of data. It's not like what we see in iReady, which we administer 3 times a year, but it's something that we're hoping we can use to better address some of our needs. And so essentially, 11th graders will take the SAT on the SAT school day. The state gives us 2 dates that we can choose from every year, so that's usually March, April. On that same day, we are looking to administer the PSAT 10 to all 10th graders on that same day. The following fall, our 11th graders who would have taken the PSAT 10 in the spring will take the PSAT NMSQT, which is the version of the PSAT that allows students to be eligible for the National Merit Scholarship Program. And so that is the PSAT that's administered in the fall. And so by the time students have taken the SAT, they would have taken the PSAT appropriately, the 10th grade version of it, the 11th grade version in the fall of 11th grade, ahead of taking the SAT in the spring of that year. So the cost that you're seeing in this line is the anticipated cost associated with the district paying for and funding both of those assessments for all 10th graders, all 11th graders, and rolling that out. And so, we'll continue to update you and the board on that, but we're hopeful that this is going to be a really great thing for our students and families and our teachers. And so that's the projected cost associated with it. So those were my more sizable increases and decreases. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have related to the curriculum budget.
Questions for Sandy on curriculum? I would ask Sandy, I'm kind of surprised that the access fees for the library media stuff is in your budget and not in individual school library budgets, because I don't get it. Why wouldn't we-
So it's a great question. We've, over the past few years, we've actually moved some of those out of individual school budgets into the district budget if they're used across all schools.
Yeah.
And so often, if it is a district license, we're able to get a better cost, not always, but we try to pursue that avenue if possible. And so you may have seen, you may not have, because it probably wouldn't have come up because they moved to my budget. There are some programs, not for the library media ones, the district level, but some elementary specific programs that are in the elementary info access, and some secondary ones that were previously budgeted by individual schools. And as the principals were coming through and presenting their budgets, we were able to see, okay, these 3 elementary schools, and sometimes 4, are all using the same program. Can we look into the potential of getting a district license? And it did become more cost effective.
Right, so it saved some money.
It saves
Saved
some money.
each library.
Yes, and if it is a program that's used universally across all of our schools, we tend to absorb it into the district budget.
Okay.
Also correct me if I'm wrong, for consistency, so that way one elementary school is not using a program that the other 3 elementary schools are using. So
Yep,
it's a way of Sandy knowing what, and her team to know what they're using and be more consistent to give all the schools the same opportunity.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Anybody? If not, we'll move on.
All right, thank you. So that was the curriculum budget, the professional learning budget. Again, two separate budgets, but they're pretty directly connected one to the other, right? So one of them, funds the materials and resources that we need for our teachers to effectively deliver instruction to our students. The professional learning component and budget is essential for us to provide teachers with the training, the professional development, to really be up to date, to be able to renew their certification each year or every 3 years. But more importantly, if we are rolling out a new initiative, we need to be very purposeful in providing the professional development and training resources for our staff so that they can be effective in what we are asking them to do. And so you will see some increases as well in this budget. Overall, it is down, just $6,500 you'll see. I do want to point out that this budget also contains some contractual benefits associated with tuition reimbursement for teachers. So if all staff members currently, TTA, through their contract, currently have a workshop benefit of $400 each. So if they were to find a training outside of our district, a conference, a workshop that's pertinent to their professional position and their own needs, they're able to select that. We have a whole process that we go through, but they're reimbursed up to $400 each. So you'll see that line is in the budget. Those lines are identified in the teacher's contract that we're currently working under. So those contractual benefits add up to $230,000 of this budget. And so while you'll see in some years we do not spend that full amount, right, we still provide for that on an annual basis. Over the past few years with COVID and everything that's gone on, we've seen less travel and fewer requests for in-person trainings. A lot of workshops, conferences went virtual for a few years, right? I can tell you that this year we are seeing increased attendance at some of these trainings that are in person. And so, I can't say for sure, but I would anticipate that we might see some of those lines that, again, are contractual and may not have been fully expended. We'll likely start to see increases in those as we move forward. So aside from that, those comments and that higher level overview, some of our decreases, one is around tuition reimbursement and workshops. The top one of these is an elementary line. It was at $6,000. We're lowering it to $5,000. The one just below that is a secondary line that was at $10,000, and we are decreasing that to $7,000. So again, these lines are labeled as tuition reimbursement and workshops. These lines are different from the contractual benefit lines that I just referenced. So occasionally, as a district, we offer courses, for example, at the high school, advanced placement courses that are monitored, designed through the College Board. We have Project Lead the Way engineering courses. Those courses require specific trainings and certifications for our educators. So if we as a district are asking a teacher to teach one of those courses, and it does require a specific level of training or certification, and sometimes these are week-long trainings in the summer, right? So we as a district, if we are requesting it or requiring it of our staff, we pick up the cost. We try our best to project and anticipate what the need will look like in each of those lines. It really varies year to year due to staffing turnover. So if we have a staff member who has been teaching, throwing out an AP, I used to teach AP French, so a staff member who taught AP French for many years, and that staff member leaves the district, retires, we have to have someone new take on that, become trained. We can't always anticipate that at this time of year. We don't know what our staffing turnover and needs are going to look like. So again, spending trend analysis has showed that we have not had as much cost associated with those lines as we had in previous years. So I am dropping those lines, but again, we're not sure. We may, and then at that point, if we ever get to a point where we don't have enough, Maria and I work together and we try to figure it out and look at other lines. But that is what those two lines are used for. So the elementary line, again, we don't have advanced placement courses, but we sometimes have staff that we request to send out in a train the trainer model in a new instructional method that we are using. And then if they're willing to go out and be trained, they come back to their buildings and help support and train their colleagues at a building level. And so that's an example of how that line might be funded. So those are those two. Professional services, you'll see an increase of $12,500 in this line. Once I explain what's going on with this line, most of the decreases that you'll see will fall into place. Maria and Lisa and I spent a lot of time looking at our budget coding. They know that I became a little bit, cerebral and upset by all of it because none of it made sense. So we had some lines that were not coded, were not labeled to represent what they were coded for. And so I found that to be problematic. And we also looked at having 7 to 8 isolated lines for workshop reimbursement or course reimbursement, but more often workshop reimbursement in service training for administrators. But we had an elementary principal line, and an elementary assistant principal line, an elementary curriculum coordinator line, an athletic director, music director line, a secondary principal line. All of these lines that serve the same purpose, but were separated out and not coded properly by position. That also locked us into saying, well, I only have $1,000 for my secondary principals. I have $2,500 for this group of people. If we're looking to bring a trainer in, now and again, it's more convenience, but in order to better have flexibility, we're looking at creating a purchase order that takes money from 7 different lines in the budget, right? So because we're locked into that, it was not working for us. So we allocate, I have not changed the allocation. It remains at $500 per administrator, but we have moved it all into this line. It used to be labeled college cert courses for paraeducators. The coding is actually for professional services and training for administrators. So we've relabeled it appropriately. We've moved all of that money into this line. And moving forward, you will see $1,000 decrease for this line, $2,500 decrease for another line. It all went here. We were just moving things appropriately to give us additional flexibility and better reflect what we're actually spending our money on. So I hope that makes sense. So that was the $12,500 increase. These two are somewhat out of order, but in service for professional staff elementary and in service professional staff secondary, looking at a spending trend analysis, these are for professional development days. We had been able to leverage some grant funding to help bring in presenters on those days, so we were seeing decreased costs, so we have dropped those by $1,000 each. Just moving on to that, here's where you'll see that first administrative in-service line. So there's a decrease of $2,500 for in-service elementary principals, $1,000 decrease for secondary principals, $1,000 decrease for the professional development committee. And just below that is the professional development committee for secondary. Again, we are absorbing those $2,000 into the district professional development committee line to better reflect. It's not always helpful to have our money split when we have district-wide trainings, to have some of it allocated in an elementary line, some in a secondary line, when we're often and more often than not training our elementary and secondary staff members together. So we are moving those monies into a district professional development committee line. So just below those two, you'll see the decrease for in-service elementary assistant principals. On the following page, a decrease of $3,000 For secondary, assistant principal in service. The one below that, in service for district directors, curriculum coordinators, school improvement facilitators, and team leaders. That's a decrease. And then just below the one that I just referenced, we have an increase of $2,000 for professional services. This is the cost of bringing consultants in, typically not on a PD day, but to work with our teachers in the building to do job-embedded professional development, which our research and a lot of our work in looking into most effective methods of professional learning are really to look at, rather than training people on one day, to provide a steady trickle during the day in the context of their work on a more regular basis. And so this year, for example, we have a consultant, 2 consultants actually, coming in and working across our elementary schools with all of our teachers at every grade level, 6 times over the course of the year on some professional inquiry work where they are trying some things out in their classroom connected to social emotional learning in the context of academics. And these consultants come back and they meet with our teachers and they're able to come back and get to know them on a more personal level to say, okay, you've been working on this for 6 weeks. How is it going? Where do you want to go next? And then they're coming back another 6 weeks later. And so it's a more steady approach to professional learning that is more personalized for our staff and provides more follow-up opportunities to help make it more relevant to them in the context of what they're doing on a daily basis. So we'd like to continue that approach to professional development. And so the cost of bringing consultants is often high. We try to leverage grant funding if we can, but we are looking to not only sustain what we were carrying in that line, but increase it slightly by $2,000. So. Again, you'll see another decrease of in-service for our regional athletic director and music director. That money was moved into that other line. And then finally, the last 2 lines are connected to our mentoring program. One is a supply line and the other one is for books and information resources. Both of them are decreases of $1,000, but I did want to, for the supply line, just be really explicit in what is in that line. So our supply line for the mentoring program, again, we do a 3-day training in August before the start of the school year. New teacher induction, we welcome all new staff to our district. We usually hold it at the middle school library. They get to meet their mentors. They meet our district administrative team, some of our teacher leaders at the middle and high school, which I think you've heard about them, are our CIA specialists. It's a 3-day comprehensive program that is funded primarily through grant. The mentoring program itself is not funded through the district budget. It is funded through the Title II federal grant. And so these costs, again, supplies, used to be more associated with, we would provide binders, we would provide handouts, we would provide all sorts of hard copy type things. Those now all live in a shared Google Drive that's accessible at home, anywhere in the district. So the cost has gone down with regard to paper supplies, office supplies, if you will. That being said, on those 3 days, right, my department, is the district program, we don't have a PTSA, right, for a school that might provide a breakfast for teachers on a specific day. We often see that. But those 3 days, we feel it's hugely important and essential to welcome our new staff to our buildings. We like to provide, if nothing else, coffee in the morning and a really light breakfast. If we can budget for it in the supply line, we work with our cafeteria services to provide a light lunch. Otherwise, they're going off. We have about an hour for lunch. Sometimes we give them local menus, encourage them to go off with their new colleagues that they've just met and go explore the neighborhood. But we do try to provide minimally some food. I want to be mindful that, this is district taxpayer money, and I understand, paying for food for staff could be controversial, so I just want to be very clear that in that $2,000, we are looking to fund a light breakfast and potentially lunch for all of our new staff on those 3 days in August, so.
And it buys us time, really, for them to work together, to collaborate with one another. So rather than going off where they're off in small groups, now you create the opportunity for them to participate in collaborative discussion right there, being part of it.
Yep. I think that was it. Oh, and sorry, the book line for mentoring. Again, we've seen a reduced cost for books, primarily because we have a lot on supply upstairs that we're able to just use and hand out, so.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. Interesting if you track the reimbursement line.
Yep,
The TTA contract numbers, you can see
Yep.
on our larger page, I'm doing this somewhat for Liz too, you can see what's actual, what gets spent. We track it out to 2019. You can kind of see, of course, that makes absolute sense to us when we see that.
Yep.
So, as always, Sandy, well done, and cerebral as always, and always glad to see you. Any questions that you might have about professional services? This is a big budget that she handles, I think, very, very well, and I think having a breakfast is okay. But that's just my opinion.
I just wanted to be very transparent about it.
You're-
Yeah.
Appreciate your transparency. Anything from the committee? Liz, you good?
I'm good. I used to work with Sandy on curriculum and professional development.
Absolutely. Well
I
then,
do want to say, like I said with John, Sandy is so careful in every single thing that has to do with her budget. She is extremely careful. I do appreciate your reaching out for things like this because first, it's a pleasure working with you, and second, I do appreciate how careful you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you for helping us.
Appreciate that. Okay,
Very thorough, always, so
always.
we appreciate it.
thank you all.
Thank you, Sandy.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, waiting patiently in the wings, our Student Services, Director of Student Services, Ginger. Hi, I'm not sure everyone has met Ginger.
No,
Well,
this is
Thank you
Ginger
all.
Drexel.
Drexel, yeah, Ginger
Yes.
Drexel, I'm sorry.
Thank you for having me. Let's see. So I think hopefully I've provided some information with regard to the student services budget in my summary of proposed budget. The student services budget basically encompasses the areas of 504, excuse me, student assistance, school counseling, nursing, and ESOL services. In general, any increases in budget that are reflected here on the summary are to, compensate for increased demand that we're seeing for support services across the district through 504 plans and through general ed requirements or requests for things like tutoring. Through 504 plans, we're seeing an increase in vision support services that we're needing, as well as audiology, and those are things that we contract for outside of the district. In addition, because part of my budget also encompasses the school counseling or guidance budget, we would be looking for an increase in the general guidance line for contracted services so that we can begin to implement more social emotional learning programs and anti-bullying programs across the district. So I'll just go through my summary of my proposed budget and kind of talk about some of my increases and decreases. Probably what you will also notice through my budget is that there is a lot of movement in the budget where we're reallocating things from one budget line to another, just so that it more accurately reflects where the spending is based on building or how the money is actually being utilized. The first item in my budget is the increase, which I spoke to a little bit for, in the amount of $15,000 for the district-wide guidance budget line. And again, this expense is really looking to work to, with a contracted service provider to help us develop social emotional programs within our schools to address bullying needs as well as increase social emotional learning opportunities with our students. The next item is a decrease in budget. You'll see a decrease in $6,455. That was originally assigned to contracted services at the middle school. I just reallocated this money to the high school because that's actually where the money is utilized. If you go on to the next page, there is an increase in the guidance contracted services at the high school, so that's where that $6,000 has been moved to the high school. You'll see an increase there for $7,000. The purpose of that contracted service is to purchase a program for students both at the middle school and high school called Naviance. It's a college and career readiness software program that students utilize to kind of get a sense of where their interests lie, so that as they're preparing for post-college careers or attending university or college, it'll give them a sense of where they kind of want to focus their direction. The next line is professional services for 504. There's an increase in that budget. Again, just to speak to the increase that we're getting in terms of requests for ancillary services for our 504 students, as well as district-wide tutoring requests. And that, again, is just for students who are served under 504 plans, as well as gen ed students. Let's see, the next budget line is an increase of $2,000 for contracted services for ESOL services. This is for translation or when we're requesting interpretation for things like parent-teacher conferences or just communication between a teacher and a family who is an English language learner. So this is not an item that's currently budgeted in the student services budget, so that's an increase and an ask there. The next budget line is an increase of $2,000 for travel and workshops. This is something that was also is just necessary in the budget so that there is opportunities for training for Title I for McKinney-Vento, which is something that falls under student services as well as 504 compliance. The next item is for ESOL travel. That's just travel reimbursement for our ESOL teacher that kind of provides services across the district. Again, this is not a budget line that was currently funded. The next item in the budget is a decrease in guidance supplies of $7,671. You'll see in my budget is not it is a decrease for that budget line. What I have done is reallocated those funds across both the high school, middle school, and all of the elementary schools, so that each one of the schools have their own budget lines, as opposed to being lumped into one district-wide budget line. The next item is an increase in guidance supplies. Again, this is just the reallocation from the prior line that was district-wide. So $1,100 going to the middle school from that $7,671. There is, the next line is an increase in supplies for guidance department at the high school level. Again, that's just coming from that $7,000 reallocated to the high school. The next line item is a decrease, and this is a decrease in books under the Student Services Department. Last year, they had requested, I want to say, probably over $4,000 for Life of the Owl curriculum textbooks. That's a program at the high school. This next year, they are not necessarily needing that amount of curriculum or textbooks, so there is a decrease there in about $3,850. That money has all been reallocated to other accounts. And then just the last item is a decrease in books and periodicals at the district-wide guidance. Again, that $1,686 has been reallocated to building budgets. So it's still incorporated in the budget, it's just kind of separated into building accounts.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Naviance, is that not being used at all, so that would be completely new for Timberlane? Or is
No,
this?
it is currently being
Okay.
used.
It's just-
It's just right now, the way that I broke it up, because right now. the
Reallocated.
budget- It's just reallocated.
Sorry, I'm seeing that
Because
again.
in last year's budget, it was budgeted to the middle school, but it's
Gotcha.
more of a high school program. So I'm just shifting the funding so it's accurately reflected.
And then the ESOL teacher,
Mm-hmm.
is this teacher going to all towns
Yes, she is.
without being reimbursed? Right?
So she has been reimbursed. It just, I think that the funding previously came from
A different line,
a different account.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So your office covers, let me see if we can get this straight, guidance,
Yes,
nurses,
yes.
or nursing, therapy, no. Physical
Psychology,
therapists,
Oh, no.
No. Psychologists,
Psychologists fall under special education.
okay.
These are good questions, yeah.
ESOL.
ESOL.
Okay.
504.
504, because that
504s.
falls under guidance.
Yeah.
504, because that's a guidance, right?
Yeah.
McKinney-Vento.
McKinney
I can't
Vento,
even, okay.
Title IX,
Title IX, okay.
Out-of-district placements right now.
yes,
Audit,
out of district.
Currently out-of-district place, identified, students
So-
identified for
yeah,
special
so
education.
Ginger's
out-of-district.
handling
Right now, yes.
right now, okay.
Students who are identified for special education and attending charter schools.
Right. Okay.
And then also any court-involved students.
Court-involved placements.
Yeah,
Social work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's a big plate.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, it's an interesting divided plate. I've always been kind of fascinated with that for a number of reasons.
And we're looking to streamline some of the processes, you know, better coordinate the way some of those services work together.
Right.
Partnerships with, you know, area agencies, community
Right.
agencies like Center for Life Management. Court, DCYF.
Social workers, yeah.
Right, really looking to, you know, partner more with some of these agencies and bring a greater level of service to our students as well as to our staff to be able to support our students.
Yeah, yeah.
Counseling, you know, is far less traditional than it once was. For
Right.
example, at the high school, where a lot of the direction and focus for counselors at the high school had very much to do with coursework and college, right, where now the, you know, the mental health needs are so significant, you know, not just in high school, but middle and elementary schools. So really trying to bolster some of those services and supports to all students and staff to be able to support our kids and families.
Is this your first year with us, Ginger?
it is, yeah. I
Welcome.
started here in July.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're a
Happy to be
congenial
here.
group, this group. We are,
Yes.
so we welcome you.
Thank you, I appreciate that, so.
I know we hadn't met yet, so. Anything specific for Ginger here? This is a big budget and a lot of responsibility towards our families and our kids and our nurses.
I have to say that Ginger is new, but the effort that she put in developing this budget and understanding every single line, she asked for details behind every single number that her budget had, which I personally appreciate a lot because she took the time to learn it, to look at it, and being her first year, I mean, that speaks a lot about the kind of work that she does, so thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Does anybody need a break or anything, or can we keep going?
Good.
going.
You can just get up and leave. All right, special education Director Kelly Brooks. Hi, Kelly.
There. So I'm thankful for Ginger because we spend a lot of time together, and we cross over, which is probably kind of confusing with my budget and her budget. So I appreciate Ginger a lot.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks. So I'm going to do the summary of the proposed budget and go down that way. Really, my budget is the largest increase, if you see, is tuition. It's for those students who are going to stay now till their 22nd birthday. So that was just barely passed in June. This year, the state had said they would pay because it was unanticipated, that we didn't know the expense. We knew there's a bubble of students that are at that 21 to their 22nd birthday, and that's what you're getting hit with right now.
That is new, so.
That's the
Kelly,
new
can you-
impact.
Okay.
Right,
Yes.
so up until just this year, it's been up until your 21st birthday for students in
Now
New
it's 22.
Hampshire.
Now it's
Massachusetts, it's been
22.
22 forever. New Hampshire passed up until the 22nd birthday.
It's been hovering. They said it was going to, and then they finally did it. And we were all kind of caught off guard by it. So, yeah, so that's why there's the increase in tuition you'll notice at the high school level when we get there. The other part of my budget, why it's increased, is we're looking at programs to support our students. We have a large population of students that are sent out of district. We'd like to be able to have our students stay in district. That's really a goal of ours. So we don't have the resources and the supports right now. We need to be able to get the resources and supports. So my first one is professional development, and that increase is really looking at what has happened previously is I would go take a course and it would stay with me, right? And you would take a course and it would stay with you. Now we're really trying to do consistency across the SAU. And because we're looking at programs, we want people to be able to have that opportunity to have the training. They do have training money through Sandy. We work collaboratively together because there is often a cost that is more. So that's why there is the increase in that. We really are looking hard at having people trained across the SAU, not just having it isolated in one building. You know, that everybody in one building knows how to do a reading program, but nobody knows how to do it in the other buildings. We want it across. My next increase is contracted services. So our contracted services are increasing. We contract for Teacher of the Deaf, Vision, BCBA services, a lot of them. But this particular one is looking at programs. So for us to have the support that we need to be able to create and implement the programs, we're going to have those contracted services to help. These are experts that will be able to help us. If we have to try and create it on our own, we have a brilliant group of special ed staff. You know, I'm very, very proud of the staff that we have, but there's no way. These are people that do it, that's their job. And we really need that support. On the next page, contracted psychological services. So we do have school psychologists in our buildings, but we also contract out to be able to help with our evaluations. Just to let you know, we, because of COVID and kids coming back and stuff, we've had a significant increase in our referrals. At this point, we're over 60 initial referrals since September 1. That's not a normal thing for our school. So that's really to help our psychologists be able to have somebody else come in and help. The next one is repairs and maintenance. So each of our rooms have a restraint room or a calming room, and they haven't been updated in a number of years. Carl has been great about going out and checking them out. We want them to be able to make sure they're up to code, make sure that everything that needs to be done in those rooms is taken care of now. It's really important. The next one is a decrease, and it's preschool tuition. We've been looking at it. We haven't been spending that line. I was fearful to take it all away because I know there's going to be something that's going to pop up just in case, but so I did decrease that one. Middle school, there's a slight increase for middle school tuition, and that is really, you'll see the kind of shift in our tuition is because our students are progressing up in grades, so that's where that $19,000 increase is from. The next one is the high school. So the significant increase there into a group of kids that are up at the top, and we have a group coming from middle school that are moving up into the high school. So we have a large group of kids that are going to be, that are 20, going to 21, 21, 22. So that's why that increase. And then the next one is about supplies. There is an increase in that. Our teachers are really, really good about ordering what they need. We just have supplies that we're going to need for programs, and we also have some supplies that have not, teachers have held on to some of these supplies. Books are falling apart, you know, they're doing their best, but we just want to make sure, and there's some materials that we want to be able to update. Students who are at the high school, who are on a first grade level, want to have a book that looks like a high school level book. They don't want to look like the one that's in first grade. There's some costs that come to those high interest, low level books. And then the other one is software. There's just some software that we are required to have. It's a slight increase, but we're finding that there's some specialty programs that we need to be able to use the software for. Does anybody, I felt like I went really quickly through that. But does anybody have any questions?
Questions? Anybody? Go
I have
ahead,
a
Liz.
question about the extra $750,000. You said we're gonna get reimbursed from the state for that, or is that just an additional cost?
No, it's an additional cost.
Okay.
This year, we are.
This year you're going to?
This
Okay.
year, any costs that we had for students because it was unanticipated, they will reimburse us, you know, up to a cost. I mean, they have a little formula that they have that if you have extra this money that's left over from a grant, we're going to take it. We spent our money, so they'll reimburse us for those
Okay.
costs, yes.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
There are some associated revenues with all special education tuition costs and special education aid, formerly known as catastrophic aid, so.
so in the, sometimes you get a little confused about saying this year, last year, next year. For our public, we're talking about in the 22-23 school year, the school year we are currently in. We are going to get some money? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes. But this budget for our 23-24 school year, we need to budget money.
We need to budget, yes. Because it was signed in June of 2022, they gave us for the 22-23 school year. They'll pay for our expenses, but next year they will not, the 23-24.
Okay.
We have to budget.
You mentioned that the SAU, and I know our superintendent feels strongly about this, training our staff and having our kids educated here is something you feel strongly about as well.
Absolutely.
And having the training, proper training for those, whether it's on the autistic spectrum, whatever the need is, getting them properly trained, those special, not just saying, okay, now you're gonna do this. You are absolutely committed to training through experts
Yes,
for that
absolutely.
need.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You know, this is my 30th year. It doesn't work to just throw people into it, you know, because it doesn't. But giving them the training, you know, helps them, helps the student, helps everybody to be able to have the training. It just is more successful because we want our students to stay here. That's the best way to do it, is to be able to have some services to come in and help us identify what we need to do, train our staff, and then work with our students.
Do you anticipate that we'll always have students we need to tuition on?
Yes, I think there are some students that we will, for a variety of reasons, but I think that we can really look at how to keep our students in and help help our teachers get trained to know what to do, before, maybe they get to the point where we have to look it out of district.
Because we want everybody educated and everybody safe. We want kids safe, staff safe, the whole school safe, and it be a good place for kids to be.
Sure.
Yes.
And while we're looking very specifically at what are known as self-contained programs right now, and really starting there, we're at the same time, simultaneously, we are looking at, when you look at, tiered interventions, the first tier being something that's available to all students, the second tier, to a select group, a smaller percentage, and then the third tier being, the smallest percentage. Anytime you provide a better level of service to any of the students within that pyramid, you're providing a better level of service to all students. So if we are dedicating specific resources, increasing the expertise and the ability and skill sets of our staff for any smaller groups of students, that helps not only those students, but it helps the other students in the larger part of the population to have the committed time, understanding, and expertise of staff available to them. So we're not always, we're not paying Peter to pay, robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes by pulling staff away from other students. It's a way of really meeting all students' needs, and improving our service provision to all students. And then while we talk about small groups of students and special programs, oftentimes one of the things that gets lost, that Kelly and I talk a lot about, is that the overwhelming majority of students identified for special education, about 80% of your students identified for special education. Some of this training and the funds that we're looking at utilizing is to improve teacher learning as to how to meet those students as well. And those are the, 80%, at least 80% of your identified population are in the general education setting, participating in, regular classrooms. And this is a way of helping to train not only those classroom teachers, but special ed teachers and paraprofessionals to be able to support students there again. A benefit to all students that way.
I really support, and this is again my bias, really support having classroom teachers understand and work with special ed staff, having the same kind of training for those special kids. It's awful to be in a classroom and not understand how a kid thinks.
Yep. And we've already started. The good thing is we've already started this year. At the beginning in service, we did everybody, special ed and regular ed. We had one of our thing about de-escalation. We already started that. We have a couple other things that are going on this year. The middle school and high school, we're doing co-teaching after the holidays. Regular ed and special ed are going to learn how to co-teach and give them the skills so it isn't, I don't know what to do with Johnny or Susie or whatever, but we're giving everybody the skills. As a special educator, I don't have the bag of tricks that's going to solve everything, but I do have training to know what to do. Regular ed, I was a regular ed teacher as well. They taught me nothing. Nothing on the regular ed side of it, nothing. Just like look at them and, think they're cute. And I taught kindergarten, and move with that. The special ed piece was like, no, this is what you have to do with behavior management and whatever else. So I have the good perspective to know that the regular ed teacher may not have any clue because they went through the same training I did, which was.
And then multiply that by those of us that taught at the high school level for 40 years.
Yeah.
Right. And kids
You
have
think
changed.
you as a kindergarten teacher didn't get any of that training.
I know, right? Right.
I can quote chemistry quotes, but
Right.
that's a huge piece, Kelly, for teachers.
Yeah.
Supportive of teachers, having the right stuff.
Right.
This is a big stuff.
And recognizing it's
today's-
not special ed and regular ed, but we're there for all of our kids,
It's
right? So
all-
it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
Talk
So
about
that's
working
really.
together.
Yep.
We're in it together.
I had a question. I missed it. What were you saying about 80%? 80% of our total students?
No, about 80% of our identified population, about 22% to 20, it ranges, about 22 to 27% or so of our entire population is identified for special education. And that is a high number. It is a high number. It's higher than the national average, it's higher than the state average. But there are a number of communities within our state that are approaching or resting around that percentage. But about 80% of that population
Of that 22 to
are in
27?
the general ed setting for the overwhelming majority of their school day, with supports in the general ed setting. But the level of expertise and training that we, I think historically, for most school districts have provided to the general ed teachers, as well as the special educators that go in to support in that setting, historically has been limited, not just here, but everywhere.
So what would you estimate the state or national average to be?
It's about 14-15% at the state level.
New Hampshire's 17.
Is it 17 now?
17 at the state level.
17%.
What would the comment be, why is Timberlane so much higher? Do we have such a good program, we're a magnet to attract?
That was-
I did move here for that.
Yeah, Catherine can talk about that, but we've always advertised that, even when Liz and you were on the school board, how proud we were that people would move to Timberlane
Because of-
of the
best special ed programs in the
tremendous
state.
reputation we had with quality, successful special education.
Yeah, it was, and they did well, when I was on the board, they did very well with out-of-district placements, and they knew exactly where to go and when to pull them back in. Beth Rincon did a fabulous job.
So this might be a crazy question, but
And before
does
Beth,
this,
Colleen Bovee was a legend.
Colleen
Bowley was a
incredible.
legend here.
Yeah.
You might want to ask how many are outplaced right now, if that number is.
And also though, if the elementary schools are doing a great job identifying kids that might be swept under the rug somewhere else, you know, and not noticed until much later, that could contribute to higher.
so
numbers.
would the state, or does the state, if they look at a district, I'll pick on Timberlane, if we do such a great job in this program, which has a big expense, right? Because we have a greater percent population, to almost reward those districts that do such a great job.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael,
Well,
I love your wishful thinking. I do.
that's a great question for December 15th.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Well, you think about it, right? So if
Of
you
course,
really
I've thought about it for
excel,
years.
if you think about it, you know, if you excel in wrestling, you somehow find money to buy all the new equipment. If you excel in other things, so if we excel here,
We need a trophy at least.
thank you.
and we're rebuilding a lot, right?
You say a trophy?
COVID and,
I'm looking for about 4 million.
some, there's, a lot of things changed over the past 3 or 4 years. So Kelly's really, looking at reassessing what we can do we need to rebuild some programs. There were programs that the district once had that no longer has. Some of that I know just from being, living in the community and having my, ear to the grindstone, as Ben Affleck says in Good Will Hunting, which makes no sense, right? But really being part of it, where some of the programs that were developed changed. There was, a little shift from, well, I don't want my child to have to, if I live in Atkinson, to have to go to a program in Danville. And so I want my child to stay in Danville and get the supports there. Well, over time, what happens is, if you don't have the integrity of a program, those services oftentimes are very connected to the people that provide them.
Sure.
And if those people go, you no longer have the same level of service.
It takes a while to get it
And
back.
and we are in a very difficult time to be able to find people who are really well qualified in a lot of different areas. And you just can't be all things to everybody, right? We all go to the doctor. I'm a diabetic, for example, and there are times that the doctor says, you need to go to the endocrinologist, right? Or if you break a bone or something, we're going to refer you out to the orthopedic surgeon or orthopedist. We really need to utilize the specialties and provide our staff with the ability to become specialized in these. It's not specialized instruction if it's the general practitioner that's always responsible for doing something if they don't have that skill set. So what did happen, I think, here was some of those programs sort of fizzled away a little bit. Understanding that, nobody wants their child to leave their town. We understand that. We have to look, though, at how we can distribute our resources to meet the needs of a greater number of students. And at this point, because some of those programs have fizzled away, now we're not looking at my child going from Atkinson to Danville. We're looking at my child going from Atkinson to Chelmsford. And, riding on a bus for in excess of an hour a day to get to a program that we could provide is, and I will tell you this, when we get more involved in this, because I've done a lot of this program development, with the new costs, it's gonna be different, as Kelly highlighted, the contracted service cost. The rates are just way up, right?
Sure.
We know we're all paying 3 times as much for everything right now.
Sure.
It's true of those contracted service rates. But I can tell you over the years, having your own in-house program with highly qualified folks, with the additional costs that you put into it, you will likely look at costs, per pupil costs of anywhere from 60 to 70% of the cost that you would pay for the out-of-district tuition alone. So it really works, when you have the right population, you have the right numbers of students, obviously, there's a point of critical mass you don't want to exceed, but you can create lower cost programming that's a higher level of quality, and you're keeping your kids in your school district, in their community. Might not be in their exact town, but in the community. And I know, we know that that's something, just even looking at the different towns, it's something that, we need to move forward with very thoughtfully, but, it's something that we need to really explore and make it make sense, because it makes good fiscal sense, and more than anything, it makes good educational sense for our kids.
What's the out-of-placement number now?
24
24?
students that are out. If you think about it.
Not including charter school.
Not including charter, no,
students
no,
who
there's
are
8
identified
kids in
in
charter schools, so 24 and out of special ed
Yeah.
placements. One child being out of district, if you put transportation and tuition and everything together, could be upwards of $200,000, one child. So if you just think about that, having an in-house program, with provide the training and services and stuff, is pretty good. If you had 4 kids in there, 5 kids in there, could be $1 million worth of savings and have your kids in your
So let me ask
district.
this one. So I understand they're looking to transition more in-house servicing. Why do you think previously we were not going this path?
Well, we had programs, so this is my second year, I should just say. We had programs, they were established, and then they just kind of went away. That's the only research I can get, is they kind of went away for a variety of reasons. I think it went from Beth Rincon to Susan and went down to one person. One person, I can tell you that if I had to do Ginger's job and my job, no. There's just no way you could do everything that she does and everything that I do. And then the other thing is, people didn't want to go to other towns, and so it just kind of went away. And COVID hit, and people were remote. I think it just kind of compounded itself.
Yeah. So the last year that I was on the board, which was 2019, just before all of this hit, we were sending about 18 to 20. So it's not a huge spike, but it's been, and we had done, the board had done some research then about what it had been. It's been in that 15, 18, for quite a few years, Mike.
Would you
even
say
when
we're
we
now,
were
how many?
on the
out?
board.
24.
24
And we can hit 200,000
easily,
student.
depending on the need of the child.
And-
So I think some of the philosophy here was that if we don't have, and parent influence too, if we don't have the right place for a student where they will be safe, where the other students in the building are safe, where all the staff are safe, we want to put the child in the best setting we can, and maybe that is transport them to Lowell or Chelmsford.
And I think it was probably compounded by space. Space is always the
And we
first
had a
thing.
space issue.
If you don't have space to do a program, you don't develop a program, right? If you need to use all of your classrooms for just the general population of all of your students, you just need to use that space. So it's a luxury right now that we do have space available in some of our buildings to be able to develop programs and utilize that space as effectively as possible to meet the needs of more students.
And everything's cyclical. All
Yeah.
of us are sitting here that are in education, we're shaking our head. Yep.
It will never be all things to everybody.
No.
We know that. You have to know your limitations. You have to, design programs that you know you can be successful with and that are sustainable. I think part of it here, and it's true everywhere, it's sometimes a program gets so attached to the primary teacher in that program or some providers, collectively in that program. Yeah, we had another consultant meeting with us today, Eric Mann from Ceresc, which is a consortium, really looking at how we can enhance our programs for students with emotional disturbance. As we all know, we're seeing an ever-increasing need for all students, socially and emotionally, but this is looking, again, more at a specific population to improve how we provide services to those kids and how we support our staff to be able to do that. So that is back on the rise, and that's not just here, that's everywhere.
So after hearing what you've said tonight, and thank you, and hearing some of this other numbers, so Maria's been asking us to pose questions for our December 15th meeting with the Commissioner of Education. So my suggestion is going to be to this gentleman, if you have a program that excels, that puts an extra high burden,
Which it does.
which it does, you said, could be this much more
Yeah.
per, and then the state should be rewarding those communities that excel, because it's not just the cost of regular education, it's the accelerated cost of special education.
Michael, I think the flip side could be, maybe and I already said positive things that we were excelling, just FYI. Being devil's advocate here, or we're not excelling, and that we're not meeting the needs of these kids at an earlier age, and that's why there's such a high, so you could say it either way.
Yeah.
It's
And we should have more
however you
money
wanna say it.
so we can meet
Like,
their
we
needs.
have, our kids in high school now being quoted with special ed because there was a deficit in elementary or middle school, or, you know what I mean?
Don't tell
Not
him
saying
that.
That's where we're at. But, so.
Well,
yeah.
anything that equals more money from the state would be happy. Not another grant that we're
Well,
handcuffed to.
another place to
point.
look, and we're not close to this even yet, but it's something that you will consider as we look to develop programs. You look to collaborate with other towns and other districts
Yeah.
whenever possible, whenever it's going to benefit other students as well as our students and, benefit us financially. You can look at that as we develop programs as tuitioning students in from other towns. But first, we have to focus on meeting the needs of our students, building programs, developing, consistency with those programs and creating those opportunities for our students. And
Not
then-
overnight.
No.
And we have to have training more than, I know one of the things that has happened is that there were training that was specific for people who did the programs, and then they left.
Yep.
And so their knowledge went, and then that's why some programs just stopped. So we need to have it across the board, like, you said, a lot of people need to know, so if it's, I decided that I'm going to leave, that's okay, because there's 4 other people that have been trained or have the knowledge.
And there's a system in place.
And
There's
really,
a program in
the
place.
para-educators probably need increased training. We're
Oh,
hiring
huge.
people with
Yes.
0 education degrees or experience and expecting them to be the ones to deal with them hands-on day in and day out with
Right.
Absolutely.
no requirements necessary to get the job. And they're not paid enough, but,
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you very much, Kenny.
And our last contestant,
But not least.
last bridesmaid,
That's
You
a
brought your
big.
accordion?
nothing in it.
budget line
Just-
has
yeah.
supporting documents, so.
He's not organized.
Everybody at the table knows Carl, our facilities director.
And a wonderful tour guide.
Plant description. Just plant director is your description.
Director of Plant
Operations.
Operations.
See, after 9 o'clock, I need to lay down now
It's very fancy for a facilities director.
for Carl.
Carl has a boss that asks a lot of questions, that's why he has the accordion.
Yes.
A lot.
Good evening. Should I just start?
Whenever you're ready.
I just want to start by saying it's vital that we maintain the built environment in order to maximize instructional outcomes. Well-maintained and healthy facilities clearly show respect for our students, staff, families, and the community. Public education is the foundation and provides the backbone for a vibrant, successful, and productive citizens. The total budget increase that I'm presenting tonight is inclusive of $319,895.50 for just energy and fuel increase costs based on the current environment, which leaves an operational increase request of $445,665.20, which I hope to explain the reasons for tonight. So shall I begin? All right, through the
You
summary.
get all that quote. That was Carl.
We'll get it.
I'll give it to her later. So custodial uniforms, we changed vendors this year. We actually got rid of a uniform service, and we're allowing the custodians to pick the uniforms off an online store, and it's actually saving us money, so we're gonna reduce that line by $2,000. The custodians are much happier being able to choose what they wear. It's still got, at the SAU 106 emblem on it. They have sweatshirts, shirts, and they have a set amount that they're allowed to get every year, so they're very happy with that, as far as I can tell. Nobody's complained too bad yet. So that budget's gone down $2,000. The next line is other professional services. What I've done here is moved some items out of the general maintenance line to better identify people that are coming in and doing scheduled PMs and repairs that are scheduled every year that have to be done, like inspection of items such as, let's just say the PAC needs to have the rigging inspected every year. The bleachers need to be inspected every year. Some of that was in the general maintenance. I moved it up to the other professional services, and that resulted in $62,928 being increased into that budget line. Water, sewer, and septic. This actually is decreasing, right?
Increasing.
I believe this line's actually decreasing because we had some arsenic filtration added into it. Let me check the budget line.
That's not the next.
Yeah, this is an increase.
Why is this out of,
On the summary, it says
I got the wrong pages here?
We out of order here. What's that?
All right,
On the
hold on.
second. It's on the third page.
Why are my pages all?
Yeah, our pages
It's on
are.
page 3, water, sewer, septic tanks. No? Page 3.
9370.
So you gotta do the whole code.
All right, so the,
That's the one I fixed, and I fixed it wrong. That's my bad.
sorry, so the water sewer septic line is actually going down
Down by
by $49,879.80.
Yeah, 49. Yeah, it's right there. It's on the third page.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So that's a decrease.
Yes. And that's due to the fact that we budgeted for arsenic filtration to be installed at 2 schools this year, so that we will not need that added next year.
All right, now we're back. page 3. Yeah.
All right, rubbish removal is going down it's going up $5,500 back online. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can find it on my sheets that she gave me.
That's still in order.
This is a contract.
All right, so we went out to bid this year, and the new contract's coming in at $5,500 increase based on the new contract.
Is it with the, can you tell us the company or?
Sure,
not
Waste
allowed to?
Management.
It is Waste Management
Yes, ma'am.
still?
We had Republic.
Oh, you did
Yeah,
for a
and
while?
We had, they didn't bid properly, so we had to go with Waste Management.
Yeah, because we had Waste Management for a number of years.
Yep, and then they switched to Republic, and now we're back
Ah,
with Waste
gotcha,
Management.
I'm with you.
Yep. Next line, general repairs and facilities. So, I know you guys, a lot of you don't know that I've only been here a year, just a little over a year now. I started in July of last year. And based on the amount of work we're doing, the actual stuff that we are going to be repairing and fixing and stuff, we have to add money to this line. We are transferring money already this year from other lines to try to cover our repair and maintenance. The buildings are 20 years old, have no major renovations in the past 20 years, so the buildings are aging. It's taking more money to keep them fixed. This is hopefully raising it to the proper levels that we're going to need to maintain our facilities. I do have plenty of things in here that can back up this, what we're going to be doing. If you'd like to ask more questions about that, I'm more than willing to get into that after I finish the rest of my presentation. Plumbing and electrical, just the cost of fees of supplies are going up. And this is actually, you know, our justifications, our 2021 actual was $85,902. 2022 actual was $53,446, so I'm increasing that line to $5,000 in order to cover the budget. Travel workshops, custodial. I'm trying to get more training and ownership for the custodians. There's conferences that are held throughout the state that I'd like to start sending them to. The New Hampshire ASBO puts on a facility masters conference, and then one of their days is geared just for custodians. I'd love to get as many of them that I can. It's usually during a February vacation, so we can usually get everybody over there to those conferences. Another one is Northern New England chapter of the Eastern Region of the Association of Physical Plant Administrators, or NECARAPA. It's an
Do that.
It's an organization that's near and dear to my heart. I was actually on the board of directors for that for a few years. I was on the professional development committee chair. It's geared toward higher education, but it's so many of the things that higher education colleges do transfer over to what we do as well. So, you know, so I'd love to get some more ownership from the custodians and send them to some of these conferences. Next budget line, supplies for district facilities. I'm asking that to go up another $10,000. Just the supplies of costs are going through the roof. Hopefully we can keep it under the $10,000 increase. Everything's going up right now. We've changed vendors from one company to another in order to help save money. I think they're better products, and it's saving us money. And they also have a program where if we order so much, they give us a percentage back that we can use toward purchasing more supplies or to purchase equipment. So it's a good vendor to deal with, so hopefully we can stay under $10,000 with the increases. But everything is going up, just to let you know. Natural gas, here's the energy. Our actual for 2022 was $137,356.60. We have a fixed price contract with Direct Energy until 2024, so the $22,300 increase is just to cover the actual costs. Electricity, I'm asking for an increase of $206,100. I'm sure all of you have seen on your paychecks on your invoices, the bills from your electric companies, that the increases are going up. We just went out to bid, and we received pricing of 15, somewhere around, it was 15, 0.1, all right, so 297 cents per kilowatt hour is what we got contracted at. We were at 6
cents.
Yeah, 7 cents.
Yeah.
We were at 7 cents, and now we're at 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So based on that and our usage, this is what we think we're gonna have to pay next year. Fuel oil, we went out to bid for fuel oil, it came in at $3.69 and an estimated 66,100 gallons, which the increase will be 84,495.50. So we do buy fuel oil for our high school sprinkler pump. It's diesel basically for $2,000. That was not budgeted. We made sure that amount's in the budget now. Information access fees. This would be for our computerized maintenance management systems. We're starting to increase our controls in our buildings, and as part of that, we also have what's called School Dude or Brightly. It's the new vendor. We increased the usage to include facility scheduling. So if you wanted to use one of our buildings right now, you could go online and request to use the building. We would check to make sure you had insurance, make sure your fees were paid if you had to pay any fees. And then what this additional $6,500 will integrate the system, the new system, with our building automation as we bring it up to speed and help us. It would actually turn on the HVAC in the room that you're going to use so that we can shut the HVAC off at an earlier time, and it would automatically turn on whenever somebody uses the building. So that's, we're trying to get that integrated. Next line, various hand tools to better equip the custodians and district maintenance staff for $8,600. Next line, replacement equipment maintenance. This is to increase the availability of carpet extractors. We only have one carpet extractor in the building, in the district right now, so we aren't able to clean the carpets like we really need to during the summer. We can't get it around, so we would like to get a few that we can move around the district throughout the summer so we can clean the carpets. Then also for replace general tools and replacing an aging auto scrubber and other equipment. Contracted services grounds. All right, so now we're going to switch over to the grounds department. So I've spent a lot of money repairing parking lots this year. I would like to start maintaining them, crack sealing, maybe seal coating every few years so that we can start preserving them and not having to replace them on a more frequent basis. So the additional parking lot maintenance is going to be about $75,000 out of that $149,000. Unfortunately, our grounds crew, our busiest times as far as athletic fields is the spring and the fall. You know, when football's starting and baseball's starting and soccer and all these other sports are starting, so we really don't have time to get out front and do the cleanups of the flower beds and everything like that. So I've asked for some money to hire a company to come in and do that work for us just those 2 times a year. The rest of the time we can maintain it, but we just can't get that additional cleanup and beautification of the front of houses, and which is very important. I feel the front of the house of a school is when somebody moves to a town, they say, let's go look at the school. That's the first thing they see, and I really think that's very important. So that's $30,000. We have to start top dressing. We've do not have a top dressing program on our fields. It's something that definitely needs to take place. Top dressing helps even out uneven fields. It helps fill in divots. We would be top dressing with a high grade sand in some areas. Other areas would be put in compost, like the practice football field is pretty much a dust bowl. We'd like to put some organic material when we top dress out there to try to get that to actually grow grass instead of weeds. And the other areas are high in loam and organic materials, so we'd want to put sand on as a top dresser, and that will start infiltrating into the profile of the ground and allow drainage. It'll make for softer impacts when somebody falls and hits their heads. It's just something that needs to be done to the fields. That's $60,000. That'll be 2 times a year, plus that's including all the sand in the application process. As you know, none of our groundskeepers are certified pesticide applicators or herbicide applicators, so we have to hire a company to come apply those products for us. That's going to be $11,000 when we have to put those out. And then we have a couple of treatments that I'm going to be proposing down in the supplies, where we're going to be putting out multiple pallets of like lime. We use a product called Silical, but in order to put that out, it would take my crew probably a week and a half to do all that, the amount that we have to put out there. So I'm asking for $9,000 for assistance in spreading that from a company. Snow removal, $2,000 increase. That's just to cover the increased cost of salt. It's going to be more money for us to buy it this year. Grounds equipment and repair maintenance. I've just 2019 we spent $14,027, 2020 $14,000, 21 $5,000, 22 another almost $10,000. So I'm asking for $3680 to increase that line. Grounds rental equipment. We recently looked at a product to help us save our time, and also do a better job of lining our fields. It's called a turf tank. It's a GPS run piece of equipment that you bring it over to the field, fill it with paint, press a button, and it paints everything. Paints the hash marks on footballs, will paint the owls in the end of the football field. It will paint everything, and it's absolutely perfect. One of the demonstrations he showed us was he went to Harvard School, and now they've had this baseball field, and you think Harvard's going to have the best baseball field in the world. Well, it showed it was off like 2 degrees on one of the lines. That's how perfect this thing is. It'll do lines perfectly, and it'll also save us a lot of time. We won't have to be spending 2 guys 8 hours painting the football field. You could just set it and forget it, and all we really have to do is put the paint in it and then clean it up at the end of the day. This is a lease for $20,000 a year. That includes the paint that will be coming with it, so that it really would be a time saver and do a great job. Ground supplies. This is going up $73,949. In the budget, you can see everything that I'm buying. This is based on soil samples that we've taken and recommendations from a vendor that we deal with to give us expertise when it comes to the grounds. We'll be doing targeted nutrients to make sure that the grass is growing. The grass we're going to be purchasing is going to be a better product than we've been using in the past. Some of it's going to be made to come up faster for quicker repair of goal mouths and in-season play. Others is going to be more of a bluegrass that has better wear tolerance on the field. So it's very detailed and targeted for the grounds. New equipment grounds. I've been asked to add gates to the back of Danville and Atkinson School, and asked to put a fence around the back of the Danville playground for safety. They've had a student run off into the woods, so they've asked for some sort of fencing out there. And then I'd like to also purchase some enclosures for the snow blowers. They've been, when they're out snow blowing, they're getting snow blowing on them, so they were asking for some, and that's $63.80. Replacement equipment grounds. So they have a fence at Sandown North right now, but it's only a 6-foot fence, so when the kids are out there playing ball, they've lost many balls over this fence. They would like a screen product that they can put up at the end, sort of like what we have at the end of the soccer and football fields out here to prevent the balls from hitting people. They just want that on the back of their playground to try to preserve some of the balls that they're using out on the playground. I do also need to replace a snow blower at the middle school. They want a robust equipment, and this one needs to be replaced. And then assorted hand tools and snow shovels, so the added cost would be $5,500. That's it for grounds. Now on to vehicle maintenance. So I'd like to add $5,000 to try to get some sort of a vendor to allow us to come wash our vehicles off more on a frequent basis. We do have a power washer outside, but I think after we spread salt on the grounds, the last thing we want to do is put water back on it and let it freeze up again. So we're trying to get like a car wash vendor to work with us to try to get over there and make sure that we can get the salt off the vehicles in the winter. And it's just the cost of doing business with repairs to vehicles right now is going up. And I've added the cost for each year that, over the past 3 years as well, so you can see that what we've been spending. Vehicle fuel, $5,000 increase. Again, we spent in 2022, $14,690. In 2021, it was only $9,423 at $2 for the average price. And our current price is averaging around $3.60 a gallon. We're also looking at different vendors to see what we can do. We might get onto a state contract. We're looking at all our options to try to save energy or save fuel. Next line is alarm testing and repairs. The actual cost of this alarm testing and repairs is around $9,270 more than what was budgeted. So I'm trying to capture that price correctly. And then alarm monitoring. Alarm monitoring is going up around $2,500. We've upgraded all our alarm systems to 4G communication. They were all 3G communication, and that 3G system is just not working anymore. They had to upgrade to 4G in order to continue maintaining. That's it, just a little bit.
Is our oil fuel contract locked in, the price per gallon?
Yes. I had two vendors bid, one was $4.10, one was $3.69.9. I went with the $3.69.9.
Yeah. Great deal right now.
It was last year when we bid for it, when they put the bid, so. I bet if we put a bid out right now, it'll be a lot more than that.
That
I
bid was
missed
out
my
in July.
pre-buy this summer by a couple of weeks, and when I went on to do it, it was, oh, no, we're sold out of it. I went, oh, no. It's already up over $2 more again.
So with energy costs high, with cost of equipment and supplies in general high, and rising high, it's like this balancing act of then trying to do anything maintenance and improvement to these aging buildings, including this facility. It's just, I don't know what to
So
tell you.
that's where my dilemma is. I have multiple requests for us to repair stuff. The floor tiles in the high school, they're broken and everywhere. And I thought, oh, wow. So in 2020, they replaced all the the floor tiles, so you'd figure they would have done an asbestos abatement. They didn't. So now, all over that building, anytime I have to do a floor tile repair, I have to do a minor abatement. None of my staff is trained in it, so we have to call in a company to do that, so.
Don't you have to
It's-
remove a certain percent every year?
No,
As long as you
Not
don't
at
mess
all.
with it.
as long as we have it covered in wax, we're
Isn't there
fine.
something,
As long as it's sealed and closed
As
over,
long as it encapsulated is the word they use.
encapsulated.
I thought there was something where you had to remove,
If you mess with it,
Once
you
you
do.
start a
Yeah.
project, you do.
Something at
Well-
Wall at school when they had to do a.
Like Al said, we replaced the floors you thought we would have.
Yeah,
removed
I just don't
them, but-
understand. They replaced every floor tile in that building in 2000 and didn't abate the mastic underneath. So the mastics, so now every floor tile you put down on that is considered asbestos containing
It's not the
material.
tile, it's the mastic.
It's the mastic.
Well, then the
But I
tile-
can't pop the tile because
contaminated.
you disturb the mastic. So it's,
But to your point, right, costs are up, double, triple, quadruple of products, labor costs, and then if you can even get
Finding labor.
materials. Finding labor
Getting
and
materials.
getting materials,
Back ordered.
it's a very discouraging place to be with regard to facilities.
it is
And
not,
we
it's
have
not the favorite thing in the
facilities
world to
that-
come in front of you and ask for money. I do not enjoy this, but it's part of our job. But,
Well,
if I didn't tell you what we needed,
Compounded by,
That
we
would
have
be my
very
fault.
aging facilities that are in
And
a
long
state of
CIP
disrepair.
list, a very
Yeah.
long, this, he hasn't even included some of the things he would see that we should be doing.
The
It
turf
feels
tank.
like every
though.
Thursday night.
The
around
turf
this
tank
table
The
is-
we have
turf
these
tank,
conversations.
how many hours is spent lining though, the fields? Is
well,
it,
it's 8 hours every week for football. Well, every week they have a
For
game, so
football
10 things. That's football
They
season.
have to do
then
that every
soccer.
week?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to cut and then
You have to
redo.
mow it. You
I'm
mow,
curious 'cause
Just
so
like soccer.
especially since we're gonna start giving the
redo the
grass
lines.
nutrients, the grass is
I
gonna
never
grow
did any of that.
faster.
so each week,
Each
there's
week.
a home game.
Each week there's a home game, whether it be varsity or JV.
And it's not only football, it's soccer, it's
Soccer,
lacrosse, it's
soccer that
baseball.
has, yeah, the
Baseball.
football's
I
the
don't
big
have
one.
any idea, sorry.
The football's the big one. That's a 10-hour job, 2 guys out there.
So 20 hours.
Especially with the owls and stuff like that. The initial setup's the biggest. That could take all week to get the initial lines and setup and everything. Soccer fields, easy, couple hours, 2 guys.
Field hockey,
It's like a
Field hockey.
Field hockey.
What?
No,
It's
do
a
you do the
robot.
middle school field hockey field? That's,
I'm just thinking.
That just needs a lot of work.
This
doesn't
is
it?
software bug.
Well,
Just the football field is a part-time worker.
trust
It's
me,
20
I know.
hours a
I
week.
I'm just trying to figure out like how many hours of maintenance are spent lining, and then how many hours would be spent cleaning the tank and setting the tank. Is it,
You're gonna be cleaning the
Paint the
paint,
nice lines,
you're gonna be
not
painting, you're gonna be fixing you're cleaning the paint machines anyway, so the
Yeah.
tank is
Okay.
that
That's
time.
part of it anyway.
It's just the lining it's got, literally you walk down to the football field, set it down, say, hey, I want my football field, and it goes.
they need a mower
And
like
I
that.
think about 4 hours into it, you have to go down and put more paint in it. That price also includes the paint, so it would be saving a little money on supplies that way. It's cool. There's no doubt it's cool, and it's.
But you're also, your maintenance staff's down.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
the grounds crew.
We just hired a grounds person. He starts Monday. Hopefully he sticks around. That position's been open since June or July, I think, July. So it's.
Yeah, so even if it's only saving 15 hours a week or 10 hours a week here or there, you don't have somebody for those 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always something we can do with grounds. I mean, we have bittersweet growing over fences. Our ground supervisor spent 2 days cleaning that out and then caught poison ivy all over his arms. He was really gross looking for a while, but.
But you're doing a great job with it. I like how passionate you are about it.
It's,
Great. It
I-
shows you're like,
I do have grounds although I have a ground supervisor, when I was at Winnicott High School, I learned so much about Division I athletic fields, and I do have an extreme passion about it. And grass, there's so many things that you can learn. Our ground supervisor, actually went out for an agronomics academy last Friday, and he learned all about fungus.
Beneficial fungus.
Beneficial fungus. There's a lot of funguses. Did you know fungus can talk to other fungus almost 4 miles away? I
have
did
little
not know.
cell phones, little tiny cell phones. they use.
Yeah.
And do you know what one mushroom said to the other mushroom?
Oh, you're such a fun guy. Stop it.
Such a fun guy.
It's,
Carl, sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, how many people do you have under your, so like
What's your
between
staff?
facilities and grounds?
I have 3 maintenance guys. I have 4 grounds people, including the supervisor. Then I have a facility supervisor, and then I have almost 30, I think 30,
41 custodians.
30, not 41 custodians,
No,
but 41
30.
total, so 30,
30-ish
She's
custodians.
37 custodians, something like that.
39 custodians
39
plus,
custodians.
I
And are
don't
you
know.
fully staffed right now?
No.
Besides this one person?
No.
No. still
I'm
not.
missing a custodian, second shift custodian at Atkinson Academy, and that's been open for
That's the one
a
that-
couple months
Yep.
now. We did just get a applicant to be a substitute custodian, so she's been approved, well, she's moving through the hiring process right now, and hopefully she'll be ready within a week. We could use her as up to 40 hours right now. And we just had another one who's going to be going out due to having a baby on Monday, so we're pretty excited about that for her as well. She's,
So a lot of the field improvements you're doing are on what I call the main campus here.
the majority of it is, that we are not addressing the athletic fields at all the other schools. I know
All it is a
Atkin-
big property there that we desperately should be looking at in the next few years. We should have looked at it 40 years ago, but we haven't. What about what I call the house dressing? Are you doing all the schools? Would that be,
So that $30,000 would be for every single school
Every
in this,
building.
every school, spring and fall. They'd come in, they'd refreshen up the mulch beds, flowers,
mums in
pick
the
up
fall?
trees, yeah,
whatever?
just,
Yeah.
right. So that when they, it would be, so when they came back to school in the fall, everything would be fresh. And then in the spring, they'd be freshened up at that point. The guys are just so busy at those exact times, getting ready for fall sports and getting ready for spring sports, that they just can't get the time away to do that. Right now is a great time, but what are they gonna do? You know, they're starting to slow down, so they're just picking up leaves, getting ready, putting away all the equipment from the fall sports. And of course, still maintaining football for the football teams, because they're hopefully gonna go to the championships.
Playing on Exeter's turf field.
Yes. Even though we have a better record.
Adverse.
Long story, I won't go into it.
So Carl also did a study because we had been looking very close at how many work orders we have, how many work orders our maintenance people do on a monthly basis, and how these work orders correlate to the efficiencies that we need to have in these aging buildings. Like Carl said, right now he has 3 maintenance guys. One is an HVAC person, which only does HVAC orders, our preventive maintenance and anything that breaks in the HVAC systems. The other one is an electrician, which helps us with everything electric. He also does anything else that we ask him to do. So that leaves us with an only general maintenance guy. We have 620,000 square feet of buildings in this district, and one maintenance guy, one general maintenance guy.
And the recommendation for number of maintenance, one
So-
maintenance person to how many square feet, Carl?
Well, that depends on the level of service that you want. There are,
The
according,
best.
huh? Well, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Mediocre's fine.
I don't want the best?
No.
And
We
neither
can
do I.
afford
We're
the
not a
best.
hospital, we're not an executive front office building, but we are an educational facility that, so, like I said, I belong to the Northern New England chapter of the Eastern Region of the Association of Physical Plant Administrators, or NECARAPA. There's a national organization called APA, which we're a member, which was is the parent organization, and they've put together pretty much industry-wide standards for not just maintenance, but custodial and grounds. The maintenance side, they define facility maintenance into 5 levels. These levels are level 1, which is the best, as a showpiece facility. Level 2, which is comprehensive stewardship, which is the recommended. Level 3 is managed care. Level 4 is reactive management, and level 5 is crisis response. Now so I can give you the definitions of each, showpiece facility definitions. Would you like a handout of this by any chance? I have them, if anybody wants them. There is a couple spelling errors that I'm going to change before I submit this to the school board this week as well. It's the showpiece facility
Finish this today,
definitions.
so We don't have.
What did
Showpiece
you
fac-
say, the showpiece, what?
The showpiece facility definition is maintenance activities appear highly focused, typical equipment and building components are fully functional and in excellent condition, service and maintenance calls are responded to immediately, buildings and equipment are regularly upgraded, keeping them current with modern standards and usage. The comprehensive stewardship definition is maintenance activities appear organized with direction. Equipment and building components are usually functional in operating condition. Service and maintenance calls are responded to in a timely manner, and buildings and equipment are regularly upgraded, keeping them current with modern standards and usage. The managed care definition, maintenance activities appear to be somewhat organized, but they remain people-dependent. Equipment and building components are mostly functional, but they suffer occasional breakdowns. Service and maintenance call response times are variable with sporadic without apparent cause, and buildings and equipment are periodically upgraded to current standards and usage, but not enough to control the effects of normal usage and deterioration. And then reactive maintenance definition is maintenance activities appear to be somewhat chaotic and people-dependent. Equipment and building components are frequently broken and inoperative. Service and maintenance calls are typically not responded to in a timely manner, and normal usage and deterioration continues unabated, making buildings and equipment inadequate to meet present usage needs. So there are the definitions. So then you have to determine the maintenance staffing by figuring out your maintainable square footage is divided into 4 categories, and these categories combine a multitude of different types of use to simplify the methods of determining staff. The categories are classrooms, laboratories, office, and residence hall. Our district pretty much has classrooms and office space. If you look at the total usage, classrooms are approximately the 600,000, and the office space is approximately 20,000 square feet. So our total maintainable square feet is approximately 620,000 square feet. And the formulas for maintenance staffing, as indicated in the references based upon MSF, per category would require the following square footage per maintenance technician. For level 1, each maintenance technician should be cleaning anywhere between 41,667 in an office or 66,667 in a classroom. I'm just going to read out the classroom because that's the majority of our space. Level 2, each maintenance guy should be maintaining 83,333 square feet of classroom space. Level 3 would be 111,000 square feet. And level 4, 125,000 square feet, and level 5 would be 236,000 square feet per technician. Current staffing for maintenance, 3 maintenance technicians, which equals 206,667 square feet. So we're just above the level 5 level of maintenance. So an additional 2 maintenance technicians would bring us up to 123,200 square feet, which would be somewhere in the lower of level 4. If we add an additional 3rd maintenance technician, it would increase to the level service of the upper level 3, giving them 102,667. I just want to remind you that the age of the facilities, the spread out nature of the Timberlane community, some of our schools are 20 minutes away from the maintenance base, so these guys are driving 40 minutes to answer calls. It's added to the amount of time taken away from actual maintenance duty, so we have to do something or it's going to break. You can't expect your showcase facility if you're staffing for chaotic response. I just want to let you know that we do have some very proud technicians that take pride in their work, and some even do the work with a smile on their face. I'll tell you, our general maintenance guy, he works his butt off, and he's always there, whatever, it is what it is, I got work to do. And he's very happy to be here doing it. Some of the jobs I've given him is tear down a wall and replace urinal drain lines. That was one of the first jobs he did here, and he did it with a smile on his face, and I don't know how. But he's outstanding. Our electrician works hard. Our HVAC guys just he's got hundreds of pieces of equipment that are 20 years old, and he's trying to maintain them the best he can. So I just want you to know, they just seem, sometimes they get frustrated because they never see the end of the light at the tunnel. But, we have currently, right now, we have 137, 140 open work orders. This is the work order list that we currently have open. The average age of the work orders being open right now is 79 days. So it is what it is. We just need I hope you could consider adding additional manpower in the maintenance department.
Is
Any-
that reflected in your budget?
I do not do the,
Personnel.
The personnel is not reflecting, they're
Doesn't
reflecting their
affect, so,
budgets.
but it is affecting him, I mean, as far as getting work done. You can't even put this at what I would call a comprehensive stewardship kind of program unless you have staff. It's all contingent on trained staff. The ability,
It's outsourced because he doesn't have enough staff. Right there.
so
The budget could go down.
we don't we might make money recommendations, but hiring is personnel, and that's the school board, not
Right.
us. We, again, don't
But
get to spend the money.
I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we would be asking for more money for staffing, and I just, Maria and I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it.
It all goes hand in hand. You can't get
You
the,
can't go, it's,
I can't hire staff if I don't have the money, so.
and it's hard to creep forward and do anything else when you're trying to pay high costs for energy and can't find staff and
It's like a vicious cycle.
I know what that CIP looks like. I worked on it for a long time.
I don't know if you guys remembered when I was hired a year ago, I had a full head of hair.
And you looked
You
right.
and me both.
It's,
Anything else? Questions or concerns for Carl? I think we all understand the situation too.
and if anybody ever wants to sit down and go over everything that I put into this budget, I do have it in my accordion file, so.
I think it's very good.
I have to say that I cannot be more thankful to our entire
Yes.
cleaning, custodial, grounds, maintenance crew. They truly do their job with a smile in their face. They passionately care about our kids, and I cannot express enough gratitude towards the way they do their job. We also have a facilities director that does a lot of the maintenance himself. He has to spend weekends here, long weekends, doing stuff that needs to be done. He brings his dog and his wife with him, so
I put my wife to work. The dog just sits there.
I do want to mention that because, it takes a dedicated employee to do that, and thank you, Carl.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Thank you,
It's my
Carl.
pleasure.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Anything else for Carl? Let the poor man go home and maybe,
He has to drive an hour and a half to get home, so.
It's the Marine Corps birthday I celebrated last
yeah, I was
night.
gonna say, you're not celebrating now, gonna go celebrate, are you?
No, I celebrated last night.
Semper Fi.
Thank you, thank you.
And again, thank you for your service.
Always faithful.
Absolutely.
I also want to say sorry when Kelly left. I'm getting very tired, but Kelly, I didn't mention, as I did with the other ones. She is amazing. She's such a wonderful, patient, dedicated person. We're lucky to have a special
Yes.
education director like Kelly. So I do want to say that she's a very good person.
She's a great Alice instructor too. She's kind of leading the direction on that.
Good.
I just follow in her footsteps, so.
Does a great job overall.
Actually, our
Alright.
whole staff is. Superintendent, Maria, the whole business staff, is amazing to work
And the
with.
budget committee is amazing.
Yep, absolutely.
Say.
Absolutely. I'll let you know after you vote on this. That's not true.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, that brings us to making sure we have seen now, heard from every department except transportation.
Right.
We're still waiting for that. Then we should be able to see kind of a total bottom line, where we want to go here. It's a lot of paperwork to I was gonna put it in one of my famous binders, that people have made fun of me about carrying around this huge binder, open, close it, but this year I decided to just make a pile.
That's where it's at.
I'm kind of, piling, and I know, Liz, if you need to see anything, Carrie's your woman here, she'll get you set up to see any kind of, or if anybody has missed a meeting and wants to see, of course, any of the paperwork, we want you to make sure you get that. Carrie has all of
So-
it.
They are
On the-
also posted in the
Budget
budget committee.
Posted, I like that.
I'm a paper person, I'm a hard if we ever go like completely, Google Doc on that little box, I'm gonna go, oh my goodness.
So on the 22nd, when we see transportation, will we also have a copy, since you'll know what the budget is for transportation? Maria, will we have a summary total budget on that night? Because we could, couldn't we?
Well, we've got that kind of penciled in.
We could, yes, that's the
Yeah.
idea.
You mean it's penciled in on the calendar? Yeah. Okay.
Discussion of total budget.
Yep.
Yeah, in 2 weeks,
Determination
I
if we
will have
need,
the roll-up of entire budget
we go.
with personnel and operating and everything.
if there's, we try to keep, I hope that people would ask their questions so we could get it for the next meeting, you'd know from the previous, so you'd hear that and not wait to the very end, because it's a lot to digest here. It really is. And note the meeting for the 22nd, that's a Tuesday night. That's- And hopefully, Todd will be here to meet and greet everybody and run the meeting.
Obviously, well, as you have seen in the presentations, there's a lot of things going up,
Yeah.
so we will.
Okay, anything else from anybody on the
Yes.
committee? If not, I'm gonna call, I'm sorry.
Because I'm excited about this one. You may want to re-mention what we mentioned last week, which was it the music associations having their,
That's what I was just going to
Oh,
do.
Thank you.
yes.
because I'm going.
Sunday, the Timberlane Regional Music Association, or the Timberlane Music Association fundraiser, one of the fundraisers for the Disney trip, is Sunday. I believe it's 10 o'clock,
10 to 4.
10 to 4.
At the middle
I will
school.
be there.
At the middle school.
At the middle school, selling mattresses. I don't know all of the particulars, even though my daughter is one of those people doing it, neither does she, but we're going to learn a little bit more about it, and I know it's a pretty good fundraiser. They're pretty excited about it, that we get a good return on, for any mattresses purchased. Of course, it's by size and things like that. There is some information about it on our website under the Timberlane. If you go up to the Timberlane Music Association and click on that link, it'll bring you right to, you go to the fundraising section, and it'll give you some more specific information. There are a number of other fundraisers happening, Millie's Meals, baskets, and things like that are happening now. So this is the season. Lots of fundraising, lots of opportunities for donating and contributing and being part of the community.
You can put that one to bed now.
Thank you.
If there is nothing else,
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to adjourn Dean at 9:51. Thank you all.
Bad now.
Great weekend.